101 Part-Time Jobs just reached over 400 episodes, and we just won 2 Independent Podcast Awards, one for Best Music Podcast and the other for Best Jingle, which we're very pleased with. We're an independent music podcast, and we've been able to do so by advertising, working with brands and companies who we like and we believe in. We want to keep this show free and accessible to everyone. So for the next few minutes, you're going to be hearing some sponsored messages, and then we'll be on with the episode. Thanks for your support. If you're looking to buy your next instrument, piece of music tech, or accessory, look no further than Dawson's. Now with a brick and mortar store on the iconic Denmark Street here in London and online at dawsons.co.uk, Dawson's carries heritage guitars, Harmony, Mono, and other major music brands like Fender, Martin Guitars, Marshall, Orange Amps, and more. You'll hear on this show how guitars have songs in them. And it's true. I've been playing this Harmony Silhouette with Bigsby that you can hear beneath this. And I've now got to start a new band because the songs are flowing. So if you're looking to pick up something special, head to Dawson's on Denmark Street or online. And with the voucher code 101 Part-Time Jobs, you can claim 5% off the Dawson's online music store when you spend £100 or more. That's voucher code 101 Part-Time Jobs over at dawsons.co.uk. Happy playing! Hey, do you play in bands? I did for the longest time, and I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties, and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
There are toys, and then there are freak-out-worthy toys. Toys that get big reactions like,
OMG, no way!
Or,
best present ever!
Or,
it's what I've always wanted.
For those toys, you need Walmart. They've got exclusives from major brands like Disney, Barbie, and Adventure Force that you can't find anywhere else. Toys that make kids jump for joy.
Thank you.
And make you a hero for giving them. Shop hundreds of exclusive toys.
Yes!
Welcome to your Walmart.
This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
It's 101 Part-Time Jobs. I'm Giles Bidder, and this is the podcast where we hear stories from bands and artists about making it work, all against the odds in the streaming era. And on today's episode, I speak with Henry Cox, singer in Boston Manor, Blackpool via Manchester band that have evolved so much across these 5 records. Sundiver is their 5th record that just came out, and it's stellar. This band is awesome, and they've done it the hard way. They haven't taken any shortcuts. They've been on tour since they started around 2013, 14. Their van always used to break down. I just remember getting so many Facebook notifications of photos of them saying, van's broken down again. Does anyone know where we can stay? Does anyone know someone who can help us? This band has really done it the hard way, and it's amazing to see all that hard work pay off. They just did a massive UK tour where they headlined the Kentish Town Forum, which is a massive venue. They're on tour all around Europe, so if you're across Germany, you're in France, you might have a chance to see them, and hopefully we'll get some more UK tour dates soon. Sundiver is their 5th album. It's out now. Just a pre-warning, this conversation is a bit meandering. Me and Henry have known each other for a long time, but you know what it's like at gigs. It's so loud. You never really speak properly. So this is kind of a me and Henry getting to know each other episode. I hope you don't mind. I think there's some good stories in it. So if you enjoy listening to this episode and you're new to this podcast, make sure you click subscribe. We put out 2 episodes every week with bands and artists who we think are interesting and exciting. And we'd love to have you along. All right, coming up after the jump, it's me and Henry Cox. 101 part-time jobs.
I did an interview last week, and somebody had gone through the trouble to like research every gig that we've played. And I'm only taking her word for it. I don't know. And maybe she missed some of the early shows, because some stuff, like, I don't know if you've been able to find some stuff in the archive, but she said we'd done like 860 something shows now. It's a lot of shows.
That's loads.
I'm waiting for the 1,000 mark, you know, but
yeah. Have you ever, so you haven't done that? You didn't keep a list. I suppose that's an awful question, because now it's like, oh, I wish I did.
I didn't do the Henry Rollins thing. Yeah, same. He kept a list of every gig he ever played, and like made like a note of like the venue name, how many people turned up, like if anything significant happened. Like, yeah, I do wish I'd done that. I pride myself on having quite a good memory of like shows and venues and stuff.
What was the most meaningful one? What was the one you remember and you're like, okay, that was a change of tide?
I mean, it's the last show I played, but I think that Kentish Town Forum show, I think there was a couple moments where we all kind of looked at each other on stage and we were like, this is like a significant moment. We should probably like, and I even said, we've got like little talkbacks now on stage, which is like quite new, quite distracting as well. But
what does that mean?
Like a little, we've got like a few mics set up around the stage, because we're all on like in-ears that we can like talk into, and it's just like a closed circuit. So it'll just everyone, like our crew and then the band will all be able to hear. So it's mostly just like Jord, front of house, Francis, Billy, or like on the stage left. So like Dan or Mike will be able to just be like, basically everyone bar me and Ash uses it. But if there's any problem, they can be like, yo, this isn't working or whatever.
Yeah.
And then occasionally Jord will just be a bit of a hype man and be like, this is sick, everyone's doing right or whatever, you know. It's just kind of
hell yeah.
But yeah, even said on the stage, I went over to the talkback and was like, everyone just like slow down a bit and let's just kind of like soak this in, because this is pretty wild.
Yes.
But there's been a few, there's definitely been a few moments, you know. And it's not always like big gigs either. Like sometimes you'll just play like a really good show that's just like low in a weird place, and you'll be like, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
The older I get, the more I try and like not take it for granted and like really process it all, and you know.
For sure. Which is like difficult. You hear people say that a lot now, like, you know, just trying to live in the moment and like appreciate what we got. But it's like a pretty near impossible task, you know, like how can you appreciate living in like a Western society, or, you know.
Do you have like a full day where you like go to bed, like you're like getting ready for bed or whatever, and you're like, nothing significant happened today? Like, I'll never remember this day. It's kind of depressing when you think about that.
Well, those ones are often my favorites.
Yeah?
Yeah, because like I can be a bit of an up and down person inside, like in my soul. I you know, and so if I go through a day where I'm like, where I've sort of stayed pretty in the middle, I'm like, yes, I did it. I'm a normal person. I love those days.
Yeah, good. I mean, and you are right. Like, you got to kind of take the kind of, for lack of a better term, the sort of meaningless days, or whatever you want to call it. You kind of got to look for the good bits in that as well, I suppose. That's like
sure.
what they mean when they're talking about living in the moment. But
And I think about like how this day is like a progression. It's like the breadcrumb trail. It's like another day working towards the project. And this podcast is my project, right? Your project is Boston Manor. Do you feel like you have this kind of thing that you're looking towards, like this sun or this moon or this thing that, because I suppose like how could you work on something for so long and just kind of just take it day by day? There must be like a bigger picture at the end of the tunnel. Not tunnel, but end of the road.
I think sometimes it feels like a tunnel, man. I don't know. I think there was for a long time until quite recently. And now I just sort of feel like, I think for a long time I was kind of always looking at like the thing, whatever the thing was in my head. And then I would kind of like notice like other artists that were like way bigger than us that would always still be looking at like the thing. And everyone kind of didn't seem to be like, oh, the thing is here. Like we're in the thing. And I don't really know. I think we sort of smashed through so many of my expectations, not to sound like I'm like bragging. They were quite low expectations. Like they were, you know, I had expectations, but they were fairly humble.
Is that like going on tour, supporting a band you love?
Going to America, yeah. Like, I mean, that you know, that isn't even humble, really. But you know, that we did that for the first time in 2016, and that was beyond anything I ever could have really expected. Yeah. So yeah, I think now I can't really complain about anything. Things are sick. Like I think I'm also all about kind of like, well, how do we keep doing this sustainably? You know, because I think so many people can keep looking at like this sort of prize, and it's always venue sizes, which is such a sort of like, I don't know, it's such a ghost to chase, I think. Like,
especially now where like we're all getting our lives on screen. You know, at dinner time, I'll be watching YouTube live performances from Puckle Pop 91. You know, like that to me is like as much as a Friday night as going to the Underworld or Kentish Town Forum. So what I'm saying is that if you're existing always online anyway, so it doesn't need to be live, especially if you're not making especially loads of money from the live shows. I don't know what your situation is there.
Yeah, I mean, there's still 5 of us with an expensive touring kind of setup. You know, we have crew and production and stuff on headline tours. So, you know, we're doing okay, but like we're not fucking rich by any means.
But it's not like you see that fee and you're like, okay, I'm getting 25% of that. You're getting,
you know, you kind of like wait for the little breadcrumbs to trickle out the end of the system. You know, a couple of months after the tour ends, you're like, maybe we'll get some money. It's never like
that must be tricky.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go inside baseball, we like salary ourselves. So we set up, make sure that we're set for like 9 months. So we have like a monthly payment that comes in on the first of the month, and it's nothing huge, but like we make sure that is kind of consistent, and then hopefully we take like bonuses on top of that. But we're also like a band that are pretty comfortable like scaling ourselves and being pretty like DIY. Like we're going to do a tour next year supporting a band, and we'll probably like sell our own merch and shit, like, you know, and drive ourselves and stuff. So we're not like a band that can only now tour on a bus and have all these people and stuff like. Yeah. And I don't. I like kind of pop.
Have you done bus tours?
We've done a couple. That one that we just did, the headline one, was on a bus. Yeah.
How was it? Like, how does it make you feel like day to day?
I don't really like it. I don't like. It's uncomfortable. Like I think people think of tour buses and think it's like glamorous. It's really not. Yeah. Living on a massive canal boat with like 12, it's like not. It's like the Navy. It's not.
And it's not a stag either. It's work.
Yeah, totally. Like we finished the show and then like I'm going to bed and there's like 4 people always that will be like, we're gonna smoke weed and watch a film, and I'm like, cool. I guess I'm gonna listen to this film through the wall for the next 2 hours and try and sleep. And yeah, I don't know, it's claustrophobic and stuff. And I guess there's probably like, I wouldn't know because I haven't done enough of them, but I guess there's probably like varying degrees of bus. We did on the last headliner, we like shared with another band, so it was like a massive bus, and that was a little bit better, I think. But still, yeah, I don't know. I personally would much prefer to like sleep in a hotel room and just have to drive a little bit. But
And this is part of the sustainability, is like working out like what makes sense for you, because it's sustainability not just financially, but like for your soul, like for you, like you got to feel good.
yeah, totally. Definitely. I think just like being able to just shower straight away when you wake up is so good, and not have to wait for like the venue to open and then go over the shower.
Yeah.
It's first world problems though, isn't it? Like,
Has your hygiene got better throughout your 20s being in the band?
my hygiene was always good. I'm a very hygienic person. Like I have to shower like at least once a day every day.
Are you taking your own shower gel, your own shampoo with you?
Oh, you gotta do. Otherwise, you venue showers, like it's like a bar of soap in there. Like I'm not. If you're lucky, I'm not risking with that. So
I love that there's just such like a tension in my mind of like two sides of like touring itself and like being someone who's clean. Like you want it enough to put yourself in that situation, you know?
I don't know. Like I think
You want to be in a band enough to be like, fuck it, I'm going to do this thing that's actually can be kind of greasy.
yeah. I mean, I think the only shit thing, if we're being gross, is like you're out for like 3 weeks. I just don't own 3 weeks worth of socks, you know? Like,
Yeah.
so you're doing laundry, but there's always like the kind of 2 or 3 day period where you got to like reuse a pair of socks.
Yeah.
And fucking gross, to be honest. It, like, because you've been playing the gig in the socks, so it is.
Yeah.
They're kind of disgusting. So
Anything you wear on stage is going to be like sodden.
pretty much, yeah, pretty gross, to be honest. People do the stage t-shirt thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, like
It's not you.
I've never. Well, I just think isn't that going to be like real? Like after a couple shows, like gross, right? Like
It gotta
surely.
be. Yeah.
But then that's going in the suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
If you're putting it in like a laundry bag, it's still sitting in there stinking with your clean clothes because you
Yes.
can't bring that much luggage. You know, like even
Yeah.
on a tour bus, there's nowhere to put your bag. Like your bag, unless you have a junk bunk, goes in the bunk, the suitcase. So yeah, like
I mean, that's a serious consideration. At home, like, I do the smell test. But I did it the other day where I went out, I put some socks on, went out for something, whatever I had to do, came back, had a shower, and I was like, well, I don't want to wear those socks I had earlier this morning. So I wore a second pair of socks,
oh, respect.
and I'm at
Yeah.
home. So, but I've got the luxury of doing that. You can't do that if you're out and about.
Do you ever? This drives me crazy. Do you ever do this thing where like you have a shower and inevitably there's like water on the floor, and then you put your socks in, you're like, oh, I forgot to brush my teeth or something, and then you just step in a pool of water. I think I have like a real hatred for like getting my socks wet. It drives me
Yes.
fucking crazy.
I know exactly what you mean. And it seems to always happen for me when I've got something important to do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, no, I've already ruined it. I haven't even left the house, and I've ruined it.
It really, really annoys me, and I feel like I do it every day as well. It's super annoying. I think worse than that is like tracky bottoms. If you've got like wet legs, like
Oh,
if you've ever
yeah.
been like sort of like a
Bad.
you know, yeah. If you ever been like, I don't know, at the beach or something, swimming, and you're like, all right, cool, dip,
Yeah.
try and put the trackies on, they just won't go. It's like you use a rubber or something.
Yeah. Going to the gym's difficult bit like that as well.
Yeah, I've not been gymming for a while. I gotta get
Stinky.
back in the gym. I just bought they came today. I just bought running. I'm in my 30s now, so I've got to become a runner.
Yeah.
I bought these.
Hell yeah. Do you know who would be the kind of person to wear that? Like in Forrest Gump. Those are some like Forrest Gump looking shoes.
Yeah, he's got some crazy red ones, right? And then he wears. I mean, we'll see how these fare, but it's kind of day one of me running today. So
you're going to run on tour? Because that's the perfect place to do it.
yeah, Ashley's like a runner guy. Like he's a cool London runner guy. So I'm gonna follow him around and try and keep.
It makes sense because, I don't know, you've got a couple of hours between sound check and playing a gig. You know, you don't want to have a beer because you'll get a little bit tired, you know, or you don't want to have beer because you don't want to have beer. And like, well, best thing you can do is go for a 5K. 5K's not too long, is it?
Apparently, but I mean, it sounds long to me. I don't even know. But I'm gonna.
You just got to build it up.
Yeah, I think-
You've got to build it up. Honestly, get to the end of your street. And like be like, that was nothing. And then the next day, go twice. Go double the length.
Well, I think
Just keep on going up.
I think I run too fast. Like I think I'm running, and then I get like 2-3K in, and I'm like, I'm fucked. So I think I need to like slow the pace down a bit.
You got to not listen to heavy music. When that last Turnstile record came out, I put that in and went for a run and nearly got fucking run over because I was just like, I was like, wow, this, you know. So you got to be careful about what you listen to.
But I picked your tunes correctly. Yeah, I think I used to listen to like drum and bass.
Really?
I don't even really like drum and bass, but it's just like a good pace. But I think it's like 175 BPM, so I think that's too fast. Maybe garage is better. Like 140, 145. That's like a good kind of jogging pace.
Hey, what do you listen to? What have you been listening to? Because some of the tracks on this record, Sundiver, are just like there's one where it's like it mixes it up massively, and it sort of opens the gate. To me, it like opens the gate to like the future of like what Boston Manor can do, because it's like it's rock, it's in the rock world, but it's like kind of groovy, it's sexy. This record's pretty sexy.
Yeah, I think it's pretty like consistently rooted in like groove, or it's trying to be anyway. Like there's a lot of kind of bassliney stuff, and then just quite like, I don't know, like I suppose mid-tempo kind of music that you can kind of dance to, really. Because
yeah, dance, is that a big part of it?
Yeah, so like every time we tried to like sort of make, I guess, faster stuff, it just felt like a bit of a kind of like older song that we would have made that didn't feel very natural, but it all kind of seems to sit in that kind of mid-tempo sort of range. But it's all quite eclectic. It was quite a hard job. We've made records in the past that have been a bit kind of not experimental, but I suppose we're trying stuff, and then it tends to feel a little bit all over the place, like not very cohesive as a record. So the hard part was kind of like pulling it all in and making it all kind of fit together a bit. But I mean, loads of stuff, like a lot of 90s stuff, a lot of early 2000s stuff, quite a lot of pop music, really, like old pop music. But
I imagine that's so much of the work of making a record is being like, okay, how far can we go? When can we pull it in? When makes sense? When's the part that satisfies us? What can we see working live? I don't know. There's a laundry list of questions there that you could get buried under yourself there.
We took like 2 years to make for that reason. Like so much stuff we kind of write and be like, that's not really very us, or that's to us, or I don't know. Like it's such a like kind of work in progress, I think, that you just kind of have to chip away over time. And I think we definitely work better that way. Like previous records, we'd like go in the studio with like, I guess, demos, like pretty consistent demos, but they were like, this is the song. And then we'd kind of like do it a week of just pre-production, and then we record it and we live in the studio for weeks. But this was like, go away, come back, like every day, kind of like writing a bit and tweaking. And it kind of makes you want to kill yourself a little bit, but at the same time, it's sort of, I think, yields better results. But I honestly, man, I think the more and more I do this, the less I understand about music. Like there really is like such a like lack of formula, and such an elusive thing. And I'm so envious of some people that seem to be able to just like, they do the same thing and they just get gold every time. I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe that's just the Instagram effect, but seems that way to me.
Well, I went to go see a screening of the new Tom Petty film last night. It's a documentary that got aired once in the 80s and never got aired again until last night. And Mike Campbell, the guitarist, was saying exactly the same thing. They were like, we made this record, it got really big. Everyone expected the next record to be bigger. And we're like, well, we don't know how we made the last one. So how do we do that again? And we don't know. It just happened.
And I think sometimes when people try and repeat that, it's such a bad idea, because you just can't really. Like some stuff is just lightning in a bottle, and you just got to kind of accept that and move on to the next thing. But some people can't. Like, you ever get that thing where you're like I bet the next Turnstile record is going to be just as good.
Yeah, but I reckon that's because they've given themselves enough time.
But that can go either way, because then you can just be like, spend 5 years thinking about and seeing this thing grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and now you're like, fuck, we're the biggest band in the world. How are we gonna live up to these expectations? And invariably you can't. Like, you can't. Someone's going to be pissed. someone's going to hear the new Turnstile record, whether it's the best record ever made, and someone's going to be like, I fucking like Time and Space, man. Fuck this shit.
For sure. I wonder if that's like just trying to just get out of, much easier said than done, get out of your head and be like, okay, what do I feel?
It's got,
because that's what Turnstile do so well, is they have the feeling, like, can't be the only one. And it's like those are things. This is like therapist talk. It's stuff that flows through you. You know, keep both windows open and it flows through. Like, that's the beauty of Turnstile.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that. Are you the room, and the music is?
Yeah, you're in the room,
but you've got two windows open, letting it. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I like that.
Well, it's like, you know, when you have a bad thought, a sticky thought is how I describe them to myself sometimes. Like, you don't want them to stick because they're a bad thought. Like, of course, bad things happen. You'll have bad thoughts. But if you let those things flow through the room, they come in one side, go out the other. Like, that's kind of the best thing you can hope for. The best thing you can try and do.
Yeah. I'm reading a lot about, like, stuff at the moment, like parenting stuff. And sort of reading about, like, letting kids, like, feel their feelings and not kind of, like, being like, don't, if they're, like, acting out. My baby's at an age where she's not really there yet. Like, she's so little, still kind of like, you know, she'll have little tantrums and stuff, but it's not like toddler, like meltdowns because they didn't get what they want. But kind of like not being like, stop it, don't do it. But at the same time, not like giving them the thing that they're throwing a tantrum for, just being like, I get it, you're pissed off. Yeah. Obviously, words, but whatever. Like, you're upset. Okay, that's fine. And just like letting them be mad and knowing that it's okay to feel your feelings and that they leave. Like, they don't always stay around. They like, go.
It makes sense. I mean, when has ever telling someone to stop it? When has that ever sort of created a better situation?
Just don't think about it, man. That's another one. Yeah, just try not to don't think about it.
I don't have a kid, but I got a partner and a relationship that I'm very invested in. And one thing we'll argue about is she'll be applying for a job or trying to do something, and I'll give her advice when she doesn't want it. And so I've just read this on Reddit the other day. I was like, okay, here's what I do. I say, do you want comfort or do you want advice? And I feel like that's
like a real like male brain versus female brain thing, because I've read a bit about that, and I think men have a real tendency to want to like fix a problem, like here's the issue, here's a solution, and like sometimes that's really not helpful at all. I do the same thing. Sometimes, you just got to kind of be like, oh, that sucks. Like,
and I'm like a super positive person because like I got dealt a handful of cards when I was a kid. Like when I was 10 years old, I got sent away to boarding school, not because we're the kind of family that did that. My brother and sister didn't go to boarding school, but because I was the trouble child. And so, I didn't really tell anyone for years because I was a bit embarrassed about it. Maybe I was embarrassed that it made me look posh or something. But, you know, parents just spent a whole chunk of money in order to not be around me. And that was the message that I received.
Aww.
You know, which at 33, you know, now I'm going through it healthily, and you know, I appreciate the sympathy. But it's like,
that sucks.
But it does suck.
How far was it from?
So it was like a couple of hours. It was an hour away, but I would go home once every 3 weeks.
Oh wow! So not even at the weekends.
No, I would go once every 3 weeks.
Man,
for a couple of days. And
was that like really, like the people that were there? Was that like really alien?
A real mix. There were people who were very wealthy who went on to go to Eton. And there were people who were on scholarships, who might have been troublemakers, who got scholarships. There were overseas people from Australia, China, who really didn't ever see their parents.
Because they were,
because they were just there. They would stay over on all the holidays, like over Christmas, like the holdovers, like that film that just came out.
Oh damn!
But I'm like I feel like so much of my positivity comes from being sort of shafted into a situation when I'm 10 years old, which is just so young. And then being like, okay, what have I got? How do I get through this? And my way of getting through it was trying to like look at get into good stuff, things that I felt were good. I started skateboarding when I was there, climbing trees, playing all the sports. That's how I got through those times. And those all those things are like active activities that if you're in a better state of mind, you can do better and have fun with it. So I think that's where a lot of my positivity comes from.
I've always known you as a super positive dude, for sure. What, like, did you have like any other, like, did you make any friends there that were like, this is punk, like, check this out? Or that, like,
No, I was well into Sum 41 and The Offspring.
Yeah.
And
it's been cool the other day when you got to interview Dexter then.
It was very sick.
Yeah.
It was very sick.
He's sick. Like, I met him once in Australia and he was such a nice fella.
Very polite and unassuming.
Yeah. It was cool because I was with Mike, who's like a massive Offspring fan, and he's also a scientist. So they were like,
fuck yeah, of course.
Punk rock scientists, and they like proper hit it off and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah. I like that you can be a punk rocker and not have to go down the getting wasted route.
Yeah, sure. So sorry, you were saying in terms of like all the kids in the school and like.
Yeah, I think that's like, that actually, you know, there was so much rubbish about it, namely like the feeling like completely rejected from my own family, which is probably a feeling I'll never recover from, but one that I'm kind of working through. But one of the good sides is that I met so many different types of people, different kinds of people, whether they were from China or then they were the son of a tech billionaire, or whether they were a troublemaker from down the road who got a scholarship. Like, it helped me. I don't really judge people, and I think that's because of that scenario that I was put into. You know, if I meet someone now from a different type of background from me, then I don't really presume anything about their life, because I just know that I don't really know fucking anything about them. And it's much better to shut up and listen.
Yeah, hell yeah. I can't sort of compare to going to boarding school, but I think in a way we've had a similar experience in terms of like meeting people touring from so many different sort of circumstances. I've definitely met people that are sort of like secretly, and I think that's a weird stigma in music as well, but secretly like people from quite comfortable backgrounds and stuff, and then, you know, people from the complete opposite of that, and then people from like really different cultures and different countries and stuff, and it's super cool, like especially coming from like mad white part of the world. Like Blackpool is white as fuck, and you know, I just sort of met people from all over the world that I definitely wouldn't have met if I just stayed around there and just done what people that I know and grew up with did. Again, no shame in that either, but it is definitely cool. It sort of opens your mind and your perspective, and definitely I think we could all do with kind of like meeting people that are different from us, and it'll change people from being a bit judgmental. I don't know.
For sure. I think I get that from like fiction books, because I like when I'm in the middle of a good book, then I'm like the happiest I've ever been. But I find it really hard to pick up a new book, a new fiction, and start.
You read a lot then?
No, not as much as I should. But I read a book every couple of months, you know, which is not a lot really. I mean, it's probably a lot for some people, but that effort of trying to be like just listening and trying to, because it is uncomfortable. Like, we're scared of what we don't understand. We don't like what we don't know. And so doing new things, that it does make life more valuable.
You know what? The best bit of sort of, I don't know if you can even call it advice, but something that was impressed upon me at quite a young age, which is really valuable, was my mum gave me this book when I was about like 10. When I was 10, I had a real sort of like a really hard time, and I don't really know why. Like I really struggled to integrate into secondary school, and I was like really depressed and anxious, and I would like skip school and stuff, and I ended up actually having to go to therapy for it for a little while. And it was all fine in the end. I don't know why. I just had like a really tough time adjusting. But my mum gave me this book that she read from like the 80s or something. It was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Okay.
And it was so like good. And a big kind of part of it was like the idea of like living out of your comfort zone and that kind of expanding your horizons. And I've always tried to do that. Like, I quite enjoy undertaking new things and sort of knowing that I don't know the thing and feeling a bit weird about it.
Yeah.
You know, I've sort of gotten used to that. And I think that's a really good way to live your life if you can, because it allows you to sort of do stuff that you would normally not do. I don't know. For
sure. It's scary. It kind of goes against human nature in a way.
Yeah, totally. I did something at the weekend I'd never done before, and it's just a thing for my mum's birthday, but we went like gill scrambling.
Okay.
And I'm a bit of an indoor cat sometimes. So I feel like, oh, what is it? October? I got to be like in water and shit outside. But it was so fun. It was like,
So is that like mudlarking?
it's like they were saying there's like a different name for it in different areas of the UK, but it's up in the Lake District, so I guess that's what they call it there. But it's just like a big like mountain stream that just goes downhill, and it's like flowing water,
Yeah.
and you just wear a wetsuit and a helmet, and you just like go down the river, essentially, like climb down and jump off stuff, and it was so sick. It was so fun, but
Oh, damn.
I was like, oh, it was like raining, it was cold. I was like, oh, it was so sick, but.
Yeah.
If I had just I woke up that day and I was like, I might bail. Like, I don't want to do this. Bad night's sleep, but I was like, I'll go.
Yeah, that is a good feeling of like, and there's so many memes about this, I know, but like that thing of just getting out of bed, even when you really don't wanna, and just pushing yourself. Like, I would say a good 9 times out of 10, you're better off for it.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the whole annoying thing that fit people say that exercise all the time. They're like, you feel great afterwards, and they are right. But it's like,
The hardest part is tying up your shoelaces.
yeah, I know. Like, I get it, but I still don't want to do it.
Hey, do you get along with your folks then?
Yeah, really well. Yeah, really, really well.
Wicked.
They're ace. I don't see them as often as I should, but they live about an hour and a half away. So
Do they think what you're doing is cool? Do they like it?
they love it. They came to that London show, which was sick. Like, they've seen us play, over the years, like quite a few times, but hadn't seen us for a bit. So it's good for them to like come and watch that show, and they like got to stand by like front of house and stuff. And they absolutely, they're very like Facebook people. Like, they treat Facebook like it's like WordPress or something, like a blog. So like they were like writing paragraphs about it all and stuff on Facebook. It's funny.
That's sick. They get to watch their son command an audience. It must be mad seeing your kid, be in a band, but especially be the front person. I mean, I know all you guys are equal.
Yeah.
But like, when you're the person with the microphone, there is a commanding presence that comes with that.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I think about my daughter, and I sort of think about like, what will she do when she's older? Like, what will she be into? Like, what kind of music will she like? And it must be pretty psychedelic to sort of just see your little kid become like an adult and then have a very I think it's really cool seeing friends or family in their like work setting.
Yeah.
When you're only used to them in kind of like one scenario, and then seeing them be like a professional at a thing, I'm like, oh, so sick. Like, I had a pretty crazy experience. It's a cool story, actually. I had a pretty crazy experience the other morning. So my wife is like a head vet nurse, and she's really, really good at her job. And I go into her work all the time. Like, I'll just pop in, so what's up? Like, I'll bring our kid or whatever if I'm looking after her. And towards the end of the day, for half an hour, I was there shutting up. But dropped baby off at nursery, went to drop Joe off at work, which is just down the street. And as we're driving, she's like, oh, I got a call from Lauren, who's like a friend of ours and also works at the practice. Her daughter is friends with ours, goes to the same nursery. So she's like, oh, I'll be there in 2 minutes. I'll just see what she wants when we get there. Pull up. Lauren's a receptionist, so she can't do anything if an animal is fucked up, basically. Get there. She's holding this cat, and the cat's got its eyes down here, and it's got no jaw, like no bottom jaw. It's just completely gone. I'm dead squeamish, by the way, so I'm like, ooh. So she immediately like jumps into action, like gets into practice. She's got me and Lauren, like, she's like telling us what to do. I'm like hooking up oxygen and stuff. I've never done this before. She's like got us like holding stuff and like pinching veins so that they can, and she can induce like a catheter and stuff into this cat and give it like pain relief and oxygen and all this crazy stuff. There's like blood splattering. I've not even had a piece of toast yet. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. This is all this crazy stuff's going, and I'm just like watching her. Like, I know she's great at her job, but I get to like see her in action, just like completely commanding the situation and taking over and just like delegating stuff to people. And then the other nurses kind of came in like halfway through, and she was like, right, I need this, and like all this complex medical jargon. I'm like, this is so sick. Like, it's so impressive to see you do this. And I was just like, I think you guys have got it under control. I'm gonna leave now. Like, but
that's sick. You know what? Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's a bit of a risk saying it out loud, but like, we compartmentalize things. So even if we have a partner that we love or a wife that we love, we don't necessarily think, probably not thinking about it. Life is just normal, right? Like we're just sort of going through these things. So I feel like in those situations, you're reminded. It's almost like oh shit, yeah, like what you do is sick. You know, we need those reminders.
Oh, totally, 100%. I had the same thing with my dad recently, where I heard him, like I was with him and he bumped into this other like firefighter guy.
Your dad's a firefighter?
He's retired now, yeah, but he's a firefighter for like 30 years. He's in the RAF and then he's a firefighter. But he kind of like became sort of like an area manager. So he would like lead if there was like a factory fire with like 15 fire engines. He'd be like telling them all where to go and stuff. It was pretty sick. I saw him do it once. He was driving me home from something in like Manchester, and there was like a massive fire on the way back. And he was like, I have to go to this. I'm like the nearest person. And he had all his like shit in the back. His car had like cool blue lights that he could like turn on. So he was like, we're going to the fire. Do not leave the car. So I'm like sat in the back seat watching this blaze and him just like, you know, being a boss. It was super sick getting to watch him do stuff like that. But my dad's such a like chill, like goofy dude. So I've never sort of see him in that kind of like authoritative light. And it was cool to see.
Yeah. Was he, did you grow up with like no naked flames in the house?
Oh, I'm like mad up on fire safety. Yeah. Like I check our fire alarms in the house like every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always know like, you know, that scene in The Bourne Identity when he's like, I don't know if you've seen that film, but Matt Damon.
A while ago. Great film.
Yeah. He's talking about how he always knows where like, he's like, I know where how many steps to each exit and where like the nearest gun would be and all this like crazy spy.
Yes.
Well, I always know like where the fire exits are. Like in a hotel, I'm a bit of a geek, but I'll like check the little map on the back of the door.
Damn. That must have been drilled in from your dad, right? That must come from home.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he'd scare the shit out of me. He'd like tell me like horrible stories and stuff that he'd had to do, and he'd like drill it into us as kids. So I was like scared of fire as a kid.
I feel like I don't want to like make some kind of like pseudo tenuous connection, but I feel like the kind of dedication that goes into being a firefighter, there's like something that I could draw a parallel between that and going on tour.
I know. I think it's a lot more noble being a firefighter, man. Like going on tour, I think, man, it's like.
But going on tour requires dedication. You're not saving people out of fires, but like that kind of teamwork, that team spirit, that organizational part of it, that togetherness.
Yeah, you definitely build up the kind of touring that we've, as in you and I have done for so long. You definitely build kind of like a good skill set for like problem solving and kind of like having to just get to the place and do the thing and fix the thing and
yeah,
figure stuff out. Like that's
yeah, when your van breaks down for the 50th time that year.
Yeah, totally. Or you know, like even stuff like we've had like flights cancel and it's like, well, how do we get to the gig then? You know, how do we solve this problem?
Crisis management.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. I think, but yeah, watching what you have to do to be a firefighter or anybody in emergency services or anything medical. Like, have you ever seen that? Did you ever watch that Mitchell and Webb look when that was on TV?
The only scene that I remember, which I think I saw on Twitter, not an episode, whereas I don't know which one of it. They're going into the countryside and they're like, "Do you smell that? It's jizz tree season."
yeah. The tree that smells like cum. Yeah,
made me laugh because it's true. That's why it's funny.
There's one sketch where I know what that tree's called from that sketch actually. It's the linden tree. But there was
good pub quiz question.
There you go. There's one sketch where there's like two flatmates, and one of them is like a child, like a pediatric cancer surgeon, and he like comes home like a really like horrible day at work, and the other one is an ice cream taster at the ice cream factory, and they have a whole bit about how he's like, listen, you can have a hard day too, just because I'm saving children's lives with cancer doesn't mean you can't have a hard day at the ice cream factory. So that's like a bit of an in-joke in our band. Like whenever things have like gone wrong that day, we'll be like, oh, it's a bit of a tough day at the ice cream factory today. Because when I'm talking to Jo, she's like, oh, I had like 5 puppies come in with parvo, a whole litter of puppies that I had to put down. Like, how do you deal with that? And just go home and be like, well, let's eat dinner and watch a movie, I guess. I'm just like, I had a really rubbish day today. My monitor mix was rubbish, and I couldn't hear myself back on stage. It's like, yeah, it's not that hard a job.
I guess it's respect. I feel like respect is a big part of it, and just knowing that all of our lives are different.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Hey, we're really getting into the weeds today, Giles.
We are. Do you know what? It's I interviewing a friend. I mean, this is a good chat. This is a good catch up.
Yeah.
I do find doing episodes with friends that it's different. It's different because we're just hanging out. We're talking.
I've done like quite a few of those now, like bands, like, 'cause you know so many people, and like you've been around so many of the bands that you've just been friends with. Like,
yeah.
How do you approach it? Like, if it's good, like say the Dexter interview, how do you prepare for something like that?
Do you know what I do? So I think there's the preparation where, you know, like, don't even scratch Wikipedia, but like go into other bigger interviews and go into like YouTube profiles, you know, and like listen back to the records and go over the lyrics and like try and find some deep dive stuff. And then I just try and have fun.
Yeah.
And speak to them like they're already my friend. That's my...
I won't make you name any names, but have you done any interviews where it's been like really quite hard to get the chat going?
Honestly, no. Do you know that the hardest ones are, and I feel this because I was that person myself in like Rock Sound 2010 when I was being interviewed, and I didn't know that I could just be my goofy self. I thought I could, if I could go back now, all my interviews would be like, yeah, I don't even know how to play guitar. Like, this is sick. You know, I'm like, anyone reading this, go out and start a band. Like, that's what I should have done. But at the time, I was like, oh, you know, making this new record. I don't even fucking know what I said, but it was fucking boring.
Yeah, I definitely. That's why I can't go back and read or watch interviews and stuff. I find them. I don't know. Sometimes, like, I love doing podcasts because I feel like I can actually just talk, and this is like a really natural conversation. And I only speak in like long sentences. Like, I'm not good at like sound bites and snippets.
Yeah.
So when you got, and you do, especially like in festival season, when you do like the quick fire stuff, it's like, I'm not media trained. I don't know how to give you like this like clipped sound bite that you're looking for.
Well, I guess one thing you could do, here's a bit of media training. Maybe one thing you could do is just basically go in, and this is what fucking politicians do, is that you already know what you're going to say. Like, say if like you've got a mad story from something that happened recently that's to do with the band, and somehow you can like get the name of the new record in there for the plug. You know, you could basically prepare a story, and so no matter what anyone asks you, you can just shoehorn it in. I think that's what people do.
I should do, and I should prepare for stuff like that more. I'm just not very good at it, but like I definitely should. Like, if we're going into like next summer, I should be like, right, here are my little anecdotes and stuff. Also, that's the other annoying thing is you always get asked like, what's the craziest shit that ever happened to you on tour? And I'm always like, can never think. I'm like, wow, pretty boring. And then like I'll go and meet sort of like someone like you or whatever, and we'll be like chatting in the green room thing, and I'll be like, oh, I forgot to tell you this crazy fucking thing that happened to me like 3 days ago, and you're like, I can't ever like recall that. Like, it's really hard.
Do you know the way I see it, like visually? Say you've got the circle, and this circle, that ball, that's all the interesting shit, right? But we're sensitive humans. And so if I asked you a question that was going directly to the bullseye of that ball, it could be potentially, very likely, to your reaction. It's like sensitive reaction. It's too raw. But I think if you ask a question that goes somewhere outside of it, it kind of like eases you into the kind of memory box, the story box. Because I'm not putting pressure on it.
You're like a very visual thinker, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so.
I can tell, like the way the visual, like you've alluded to like 3 different things on this conversation where you've like thought about it in like a kind of like visual, like the window thing, like a dynamic, like visual way. I think that's it. You have an inner monologue?
Not really. No. I mean, I have that voice in my head, but I think that's not. I don't think especially. How about you?
Well, no, because so I have nothing. Like, I don't hear any voices. I never hear anything when I think. I just see stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I can recall if I choose to, I can be like, this is what Giles's voice sounds like. But it doesn't happen. Like, if I read something, I don't hear the words, or if I think, I don't hear anything.
Interesting.
But I know a lot of people do, and I didn't know this until like really recently, that a lot of people like hear themselves kind of like talking to themselves in their head. Not everyone, but like a lot of people do.
I think my girlfriend thinks in German, or used to, because she's German. She moved over 7 years ago. 6 years ago.
I also always wonder about that. That's really interesting.
But I think she's just started. Like, there was like a year ago, she was like, and I was like, what? I was like, what? And she was like, I just had my first English thought.
Whoa, that's
Or was it a dream?
I love that.
Something.
Or I also think, like, what do like deaf people hear? People that have been deaf since birth, like, well, they mustn't, right? They must just kind of see stuff, or
yeah. I mean, it's like if your smell goes, then your taste. Or like, what if your eyes go, then you can hear really well. Or if your ears go, you can see really well. I don't know. That sounds like, now that I hear that coming out my mouth, that sounds fucking dumb. But there's I've got a good story I should tell you later on about Stevie Wonder. Oh, fuck it, I'll tell you. We're here now. We're probably not going to talk for another 6 months. So I used to work at this great DIY radio station, and the guy who runs it used to run a studio in West London. He's like a jazz drummer. He's like a fucking sick drummer. And actually, speaking of sight, he's got one dodgy eye, and it's really hard not to look at it. But he's funny. He's got a good sense of humor about it. Anyway, so they're in their West studio, and Stevie Wonder comes in to do a session, and oh fuck, what happens? They're waiting.
were you working there like when he came?
No, I wasn't. Sorry, this is like 30 years ago.
Okay.
So my mate, my old boss, Aid, was running the session. Stevie Wonder was really, really, really late. 3 a.m. he gets there, and they'd all like kind of had a couple of beers, and they were all smoking spliffs. And you know, I don't know. You never really know how people's thoughts on like the illegality of spliffs are or whatever. So Stevie Wonder comes in, does the session, does the thing, and then leaves. And then what happens? I think I'm getting this right. 10 minutes after he leaves, they get a knock on the door. And it's a security guy, built bouncer type look that they hadn't seen before, and they were like, "Yeah, you guys come with me. There are drugs in here." And basically, they're all like, "Fuck!" And so they start following this guy outside as if they're going to get like arrested or something. But it turns out that was Stevie Wonder's security guy who'd been in the car, and Stevie Wonder was just pranking them.
No way, you get pranked by Stevie Wonder.
Which is quite a funny story, and I'm definitely telling that half wrong. That's like a half-baked story, but it's a good one. Anyway, hey, thanks so much. With this bit basically being an hour, so I hope the listeners to this.
Time flies,
see, it's nice, isn't it? It's good to catch up, man. Especially about music. You know, one thing that I've realized doing this podcast, and probably doing 1,000 hours now doing this podcast, is that music is the most important thing to me. I don't play anymore. I don't go on tour anymore. But I did journalism before I formed a band when I was 18, 19. I did some bits for NME around then. But talking about music is just, and listening to music and communicating about it is just like the most important thing to me in my life. And like, I appreciate that, you know, we have this and we can talk for an hour and it not feel like an hour. But it must feel kind of similar for you. Like, music is a huge part of your life, and you've made it that way.
I find it difficult. I mean, I could talk to anyone about anything, but I find it especially strange when you do meet people who have no interest in music. And I'm not saying everyone needs to be like a big like muso or whatever, but that, you know, it's just not really, doesn't have any sort of presence in their lives. They don't really put it on. They don't really have any sort of opinions on it, favorite artists or anything. And I find that really strange, like quite difficult to understand. Because to me, it's just sort of like eating. It's just like, it's something that is or should be ever present in everybody's life, and you know. And
you had that since you were a young kid, music.
Yeah, obsessively so. Like since I was probably like 10, just like so into music, like couldn't shut up about it. And I find a bit less so now. Like I tend to listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff, and I think it's just because I'm around it all the time. Sure. So it's almost like a little bit of a break. But I'm still listening to music every day, you know. Like I don't know how you don't.
Yeah. And speaking of that, you know, you're an adult. You're in your 30s. You're a papa. You got a wife. You got a home.
Pretty lucky.
If you could put milestones into times, you know, the show's obviously called 101 Part-Time Jobs. Like that job that you got that was like, okay, this is a salaried job, but actually I don't really want that. I want to play music. And then you have to do that for a few years with not really having a stable income. You know, talking about that kind of stuff, I don't know if that was your story, but do you have these kinds of milestones where you can look back and you're like, okay, that was when I quit that job, or that was when I first got paid from Boston Manor? Can you look back and identify those moments?
Yeah, I mean, I've done Boston Manor since I was so young that I didn't really have like much of a career before it. Like I went to university and I was in the band when we were in university.
You got the student loan.
Yeah, and all that stuff. And like we started touring in university, and then like by the time I came out of university, it was like there was like one summer where we didn't have a whole, or maybe like 6 months where we didn't have a whole lot going on, but then it was just kind of like, okay, I just live on tour and then my parents let me stay at their house when I came off. But I had a job for like that 6 months that was like it was the first time I was been like, oh, this is like money, like a salary job. It was still, by today's standards, it wasn't a very good wage, but it was still like a proper job. And then I kind of tried to keep it for a bit. I may have mentioned this on the last time we were on the podcast, but I tried to keep it and just kept like lying to him. And I was like, oh, you've used all my sick days. And then I was like, oh, my nan's really ill. I got to take some unpaid leave. And, all that kind of like dodgy stuff. So I kept it going as long as I could. And then I just had to kind of come clean and was like, I have to quit. Like I'm in the band and we're now going on tour all the time. I think we just gotten our first like proper like European tour supporting a band.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work.
Was that difficult? Did you find that hard? Because I don't know. I have that thing. Well, luckily I haven't had it for a little while, but I have that thing where I'd go into a work and say if I had to lie to get off early to go to a gig or something, like I felt like I was in school. And even though I didn't mind getting in trouble, I didn't like getting told off. I didn't like the I didn't like the confrontation of it. I'd always get wet eyes.
Well, what I really hated as much as anything was like the jobs that I did sort of after that and before that were all usually like behind a bar, which is all good. That's like pretty established. There's like people come and go from those jobs, right?
It's part-time, yeah.
Yeah. But they would make out like you were like, I think I'm questioning your commitment to Toby Carvery. Yeah. And you'd be like, who the fuck? Like what? Like, do you think all these people love working here? Nah, it's like, it's just a paycheck, man. Like, and there's no shame in that. Like, it's okay. Like, I always thought, like, if I ever managed a place, not that I ever would, but if I was like somebody managing something in the hospitality industry, I don't think I would ever expect people to be personally, emotionally invested in this business. It's not their business. Like, it's such a weird perspective. And I would come across that all the time from like line managers and assistant managers and stuff of like restaurants and pubs and bars and stuff. Yeah. Really weird.
It's bizarre. I had exactly one of them, and weirdly the boss was my friend, so I don't know why she was such a dick about it, but I said that I was covering something on a Sunday, and I'd gone to a house party the night before and fell asleep there, and she had seen me asleep on her sofa on her way out to work. And I think that's where the resentment came from. But basically my phone ran out of battery and I forgot that I was covering at the pub, and then I got a call, loads of missed calls. This is a first fight. This is a formal warning. And I felt so bad that I went down to the pub, probably an hour after my shift would have started, and it was fucking empty. There was no one there. And I was like, well, shall I work? And they were like, no, it's too late now.
Yeah, that.
I'm like, you're just fucking doing this for what is this? You're not treating this on its merit. This isn't real life right now.
Yeah, that when people are like, you didn't show up on time, so don't show up at all. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I imagine it's hard to manage a pub.
Sure.
And I imagine it's really frustrating when people show up and stuff. But like, also just like, see it for what it is. Like, these are kids who are working here in the summer, or they're like doing shit on the side. Like, I'm not going to be I keep using Toby Carvery. I did work for Toby Carvery for a bit, but I'm just using that as an example. I'm not going to be in the Carvery in 10 years time. Like, I'm just not like, and that's fine.
Did you like the food at the Carvery at Toby's? Did you get into the food?
I love it. Toby Carvery's sick. Shout out Toby Carvery. Secret hack, all the gravy, or at least it was when I worked there, all the gravy there is actually vegetarian, even if it says it's meat gravy. They do a lot of veggie options and stuff.
Yeah.
We took we took an American band there like a while back, and it blew their minds because they were like, dude, it's like a Thanksgiving buffet.
Every day of the week.
Every day. But yeah, I think it's all right. Yeah, we get like just a free Carvery at the end of every shift, which is
that's sick. I love Toby's, but the feeling I associate with it is when you're so full that you can't really stand up properly. I've got eyes bigger than my stomach,
I I get anxiety about that as well. Like that feeling stresses me out. So I always I get it if I go for like a massive curry.
Yeah.
I always overeat and then I feel like really terrible in it. And I get like a bit anxious about it. So.
I'm with you. It is quite an anxious feeling because you get home and it's like having day beers. You get home and it's like not even late necessarily. But you're like, I've got to go to bed. I'm like,
yeah,
I've done something bad. So there was Henry Cox here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Thank you so much for listening. Their new record, Sundiver, is out now. They're on tour across Europe at the moment. Hopefully there'll be more UK dates soon. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you click subscribe. And if you're able to leave a review, that would be mega. See you next Tuesday with an episode with Kat Cohen, followed by Fantastic Negrito. The week after, we got Clams from Warm Dusha, and then Emma Richardson, the new bassist in Pixies. See you then.
101 Part-Time Jobs is hosted by Giles Bidder and produced by me, Olivia Swash. This has been a Mighty Moon Media production.